Didn't get a chance to say goodbye. Are you okay?
No, I'm glad to have a chance to thank you.
Just doing my job. No thanks necessary, miss.
No, it is. You saved my life. You saved all of our lives. That was a very... Hal?
Miss.
Hal? Oh my god! Oh my god, Hal!
How did you know it was me?
What do you mean? I've known you my whole life. I've seen you naked. You don't think I would recognize you because I can't see your cheekbones? What is this? Why is your skin green? Why are you glowing? What the hell is with that mask?
Came with the outfit. Cool, huh?
Well, welcome everybody to episode 39 of the Pseudo Nerd Podcast for September 30th, 2016. I'm your podcast host, Josh Kiser, and joining me in the studio today, Mr. Josh Haddix.
What's going on, everybody?
And Kyle Hoagland.
What is up?
How you guys doing?
Oh, good. I thought you were going to drop like a joining us in the multiverse today or something like that.
You know,
he's been pretty lame the past 2 weeks, to be honest.
It's very difficult when you have a month-long podcast to try and come up with different variations of welcoming people into said.
Hey man, a little bit of effort. A little bit of effort goes a long way, you know.
You know what?
There are millions and millions of fans that are looking forward to what you're about to say and the creativeness that you bring, and you know this is now like what, the second week, and really I bet you we go back 3. I bet you let's just put it honestly, you've been phoning it in.
I mean, I'm not going to argue that I am not phoning it in, but I will say my closings have been fire. All right, straight fire.
By fire, you mean exhausting to listen to? Then yes.
I mean, let's be fair. This entire podcast is exhausting to listen to, so why not close on pure exhaustion?
If someone makes it to the end, that's what they get.
That's right.
We were already told on
treat.
YouTube that we're too long.
And, you know, we do appreciate all the feedback we get from our listeners on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you guys want to reach out to us. You know, leave us those iTunes reviews. Let us know what you think, whether you think we're going too long or you think you disagree with something we might say. You know, we love hearing all that feedback. And coming up in today's podcast, we are going to do our list podcast as we bring a close to our DC movie universe month-long topic. And we're going to give a top 3 heroes that we think need to be included in the Justice League, and the top 3 villains that we think should be fighting or opposing the Justice League. So it should be pretty interesting. I know, Kyle, you're looking forward to discussing all these people that you've never heard of. So that should be
absolutely. I loved the homework I had to have for this podcast. Who I feel really bad for is Haddix, because once this week's over, he probably is just going to have to go on vacation again, because I mean this is his bread and butter is DC. So once this is over, I mean I don't know what we're going to need you for a little while. You can come back in November and we have another month-long topic.
I was actually going to, surprise you guys at the end, but I'm going to retire from the podcast business. You know, I just don't think I could offer more than what I have. To be honest with you, you're all beneath me. So, you know,
this guy pulling a Mo Williams on us, retiring after he said he was going to be with us for the rest of the year.
Was that Mo Williams? Did he retire?
Yeah, he
retired. At first I thought you were talking about who was the Richard Jefferson. Who's like, I retired.
No, he did the opposite.
I don't care. You want me to?
Yeah, he did the opposite. He came back.
Yeah. Well,
hey, you got to go out while you're on top.
Doing too busy talking about, looking up Vandal Savage trivia. So Sometimes I miss things.
Well, it's a spoiler alert on that.
Yeah, right. This guy just teasing.
Oh yeah, because everyone's listening to us right now. That's like, oh my god, I wonder if they're going to talk about Vandal Savage. If they do, I hope they don't mention it because it's going to ruin the podcast. Said nobody ever.
Hougie probably started Googling Randy Savage and got really way off topic.
I could have talked about him, and that would have been a very interesting bad guy. Let's put it that way.
Yes,
very
it would have.
Elbow drop, everybody.
Hougie, I just want to bring something up, since it's really not relevant to anybody who's listening right now, but kind of Haddix. Haddix, I don't know if you noticed or not, Hougie and I made a fantasy football trade.
I got the email about it.
It might have been the least effort trade ever made in the history of fantasy football, in that I literally proposed it without saying a word to him. He accepted it without saying a word to me, and other than just before we got on to record, we had no mention that the trade even took place.
That is what you call a gentleman's trade. That was, I remember I got an email that said that you wanted to give me D'Angelo Williams for Tyler Eifert, who's now possibly, I don't even know if he's playing this week, but he'll probably be back next week.
No, he might be back next week. Yeah, that's
right.
The earliest that he'd be back, I think.
And I totally forgot about it. At first I was thinking, like, why would I want D'Angelo Williams? And then I don't know. Today I just looked at it again. I'm like, fuck it. And I just clicked accept. I didn't even think much more about it. That's how dialed in I am about fantasy football with my 1-2 record.
You know, as much shit as we've given your draft and your team, you are currently 1-2 with the second most points in the league. Somehow, quietly, you've scored the second most points, and I find that very entertaining.
As I said, no one's really been bad. My flex has been my only, like, questionable choice, and that's with me having Alex Smith. I had Alex Smith in the bench who went off, had like his career year, and then the next week he went back to regular Alex Smith, which is kind of a bummer. But at least I know that he's capable. So I mean, it's probably going to be a bad thing because I feel like I have to hold on to him. But oh well, go, Trevor Siemian.
Go Trevor Siemian. That is the motto for Hougie's team this year, so any of you who do play fantasy football, you know what kind of situation he's dealing with.
You probably hear about as many people talking about Trevor Siemian as they are talking about Vandal Savage.
This guy just trying to segue into the later portion of our podcast, but I guess if we want to talk about Vandal Savage, we'll just talk about Vandal Savage now. So
I am the resident expert now on Vandal Savage after reading about him for 10 minutes.
So we're doing 3 heroes and 3 villains that we want to see added to the Justice League team, as well as the villains. And obviously there's plenty of villains that we'd like to see. Some of them might be better suited for, the one-off movies, better villains for a solo Superman, solo Green Lantern movie, that kind of thing. These are ones we thought might be better for a group, a Justice League movie where they're, maybe they're kind of a stronger villain and, an out of this world kind of villain, or possibly they've got, other reasons to be included in that. Something that, one superhero might not be enough to take care of. So I guess we'll just start with Vandal Savage, in case you guys weren't aware that's one of the villains we were going to discuss. And Hougie, since you are a resident expert on Vandal Savage, why don't we let you just kick this guy off and let us know why you think Vandal Savage would be good in one of the Justice League movies.
Oh man, there's just so many countless reasons why Vandal Savage should be showcased. One of the reasons that, as I don't know, obviously digesting all of the information that I can come up with him, I like human villains. I understand the mystique of and not a damn joke about.
She's an X-Men.
I was about to say, come on, Hougie.
Come on.
All right. Well, anyways, so there's obviously there's a bit of intimidation and fear when you have somebody that is from another planet or a galactic threat like a Darkseid or a Thanos in Marvel world.
thing too.
Okay. You want to talk about Vandal Savage? Let's hear you talk about Vandal. So anyways, Vandal Savage is from Earth, and due to radiation from a meteor, I believe, he's immortal. He's like the Highlander. And
Except for he's not.
Except for he's not. I don't think.
That's good.
I mean, yeah, he's not. He is not Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod.
Oh.
God, now I missed that show.
I know, seriously.
Hougie sounds like the guy who's giving his report in class about something that he didn't study for until the day before, and he keeps trying to like change the subject on the teacher and stuff. Like,
until I run out of 5 minutes.
And it's like, oh, time's up. Well, that's it.
I'm just here to tell stories.
So continue about your human villain.
So yeah, my human villain, good old Macho Man Vandal Savage. Apparently, his story is also remarked around where he is apparently Cain, where he was the first murderer, and so some say he's as old as the human race itself, and his powers are not anything crazy. At least it doesn't seem like it. He's just an old dude with obviously extreme conditioning because he's so old and still is young and has probably enhanced healing and all that good stuff. I still don't think that I think the Justice League would be able to handle him easily, but I feel like one of the reasons why he's a big deal with the Justice League is probably because of the whole storyline with the New 52, probably, and like the Crisis series. But I've always liked I like Lex Luthor. I like the evil being mankind. It always just seems kind of just cheesy.
So philosophical of you, dude.
It is, though. It is. It's a little hashtag deep, but I've always felt like it was kind of a phoned-in thing to just go, all right, so a lot of our heroes are from other worlds, and so let's have the villains, be on their level, even though they all live on Earth. I kind of like the idea of the human aspect of the villain coming up with dastardly galactic ways, I guess, even if it is like, finding some crazy technology. And that's usually what you find. A lot of the human bad guys.
Well, they're going to need some sort of
really
assistance if they don't have superpowers.
Right. So they have to rely on like above average intellect and some sort of technological, one up that's going to trump whatever, they could take.
As far as politics out of
presidential candidate. Yeah. Poor Hougie.
So once again, so he's like he's an old Lex Luthor. He's very well trained. Yeah. He's schooled.
Well, then he's also immortal, right? I mean,
yeah, he's immortal.
It's a bit step up from Lex Luthor.
So yeah, so he does have, I guess you consider, superhuman to a degree physical traits. But I think that also comes with the territory of being immortal itself. And then just being, I guess, experienced in the world. He does know how to fight. He does, he has all that stuff. And I think they also said that he apparently has been all the evil people of the world, such as
like Jack the Ripper and stuff like that. Yeah.
Adolf Hitler. He was revealed as Adolf Hitler in a fucking comic.
Talk about your M. Night Shyamalan twist right there, right?
Yeah, seriously. So it would be interesting. You would put that right alongside, the Ra's al Ghuls and the Lex Luthors of the world. But I don't know. Like I said, that's all I really kind of know about the guy.
Let's let Haddix chime in here. And help save this segment.
Just say me why you think it makes sense. Because I'll be honest, when we were going through this rundown, I didn't exactly agree with him until I read about him.
Here's the big, like everything you said was right, and I agree with. I think he's a good human aspect of things instead of a dark side, which is a god from another world or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of our list is not going to be humanoid, so...
Yeah, exactly. So the draw that Vandal Savage brings is, you're right, he is an immortal Lex Luthor. He has indisposable income or whatever the hell. He's very intelligent. The only upside he has is he doesn't want to just beat Superman. He doesn't just want to beat he wants to dominate the world. He wants to take over the world. He doesn't care about one particular superhero or not. So the tie that Vandal Savage will bring is the potential Legion of Doom, where he brings all these villains together with some master plan. He'll end up screwing over heroes and villains. He doesn't care about that kind of stuff. He'll use the villains to try to beat the heroes while he kind of has this main plan going on. Since he has been around a long time, I would not be shocked if his name gets dropped in Wonder Woman, since that takes place.
That's a great call.
A long
there.
time
I didn't even
ago.
think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's going to be
Or one
in
of his aliases anyways, or something like that.
It just wouldn't shock me if he gets mentioned in Wonder Woman somehow, and it's just kind of this, like, not even a looming villain, not like a Thanos, which is like, oh my god, when's that? Just kind of, they mention him every once in a while, and if you don't really know your shit, you won't even think twice about it, but in the back of your mind, you'd be like, oh shit, Vandal Savage might have something to do with something later on. So that's the cool part with him being so old, is you can bring him up in some of these movies.
Yeah, I agree. And, the Legion of Doom, like we talked about on a previous podcast. If you guys haven't listened, go back and listen to last week's podcast where we talked about the future. But we talked about one of our fanboy wishes was for a Legion of Doom type movie where you get a group of these villains together that might not be able to hold their weight in a solo film, these days. And doing something like that where you get them grouped together with Vandal Savage, I think it would be an interesting way of approaching it. And possibly that first Justice League movie, where we kind of want to keep Darkseid held off. That could be a good way. And like you said, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that with Wonder Woman's movie taking place back in the early 1900s. Like, maybe he does show up. Maybe he has a little bit of a looming presence there leading into Justice League. It would make a lot of sense in that regard. For those of you who have watched Legends of Tomorrow, the first season, that Vandal Savage was the villain of the first season. There's a lot of time travel going on, which is cool. That's something, if they wanted to make one of these like one-off movies, they could do something like that with the time travel. Just get a totally different actor to play Vandal Savage, because the guy who played him in that was just awful. I just couldn't get into him at all.
Was he as bad as Zod from Smallville?
Yeah, maybe not, but they're bad for two different reasons. Like, he just was uninteresting, and I felt like Vandal Savage could have been a much more interesting character.
Oh god, yeah.
So that's the first one on our list. We'll just keep going on with our villain list and move to a less human aspect and go into Parallax. And I got to be honest, my knowledge of this one is lacking. I think I remember him being in the Green Lantern movie.
Don't remember that.
So that's about my limited experience with Parallax. Haddix, I think I'm going to have you sort of take the reins on this one, and then maybe Hougie can give us his input off of a Wikipedia Cliff Notes or something.
I mean, there's not. I won't get too much in depth because there's been some different versions, kind of with the New 52 that came out. There was the pre New 52, and then when the New 52 came out, and now they've kind of done a soft reset of some things, and he's got a different role now as well. But the one common thing that he's always had is he's this parasite, and he kind of started.
Is that where the para at the beginning of his name comes? From
there you
parasite?
go. There you go.
See, they were clever in their naming.
You might as well just be part of DC Creative, dude. Come on.
I should be.
I mean, call them out, see if they need anybody. So he's a parasitic creature. He's kind of the beginning of the yellow. When he started, it really wasn't the yellow power core or powering core or whatever, the yellow core or whatever. But there's been a lot of different things. He was trapped inside of the green kind of power core on Oa for the Green Lanterns, and he was the reason that Green Lanterns are susceptible to fear, and in order to be a Green Lantern, you have to be able to overcome great fear because it's kind of like built into their rings. The big storyline, and what I think they could build into a Justice League down the road, is he actually ends up taking over Kyle Rayner. And I believe it was Kyle Rayner, right?
I believe you're right on that one, yeah.
Yeah. He takes over Kyle Rayner and basically makes him just go nuts, and he like kills a bunch of people, goes rampant. He kind of has moments of clarity where he kind of comes back to himself and he tries to save people, but then Parallax ends up taking back over. And I mean, he
much
just
like an evil parasite that just like
exactly.
Is that
I mean, again, you can see what DC's doing here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's the big storyline I think they could build in is, you introduce, like, let's say they end up introducing Green Lantern in this Justice League movie or shortly after. You kind of build him up, kind of make everyone like him, make him a good character, and you kind of have him taken over by this parasite. He obviously ends up getting rid of him, and I won't go too much into it because that's kind of part of the next villain. But it could just him taking over Kyle Rayner, which Green Lanterns are already very powerful, and then when you had Parallax take him over, he was a very formidable foe, if you will. And I think it could definitely tie into all of these heroes having to take him down.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some like it's a big out of this world type character, so it's definitely something that would need multiple heroes to take down. I think so I can understand the aspect there, but you're right. The Green Lantern movie did not do him justice.
No, it was horrible.
Also, Parallax also originally took over Hal Jordan, and then afterwards Kyle Rayner, because that was when Hal Jordan descended into madness after Coast City was destroyed by Mongol.
Yeah, they kind of like rewrote stuff and were like, oh well, he kind of just influenced him to do that stuff because he was trapped inside the Lantern. There's been a lot of again, when they hit like the rebirth, they kind of try to redo a couple things here and there, and then again with the re-release, it's kind of all. Yes, you are correct though, and I'm sure they could even do things a little bit differently in the whole DC movie universe if they wanted to as well.
Well, I think also in the rebirth, that's the only thing I know about Parallax too is that. In the rebirth in the era, isn't he basically Sinestro?
In the rebirth one that just happened, like 4 months ago, he is powering Warworld, which is Sinestro and the Yellow Core's like home planet. But Sinestro is like really old; he's just aged real bad. So yeah, he basically drains the life out of Parallax to repower himself. So yeah, they're kind of one thing right now.
Gotcha. So it seems like Parallax himself wouldn't be too much of the bad guy. Well, I'm not saying he wouldn't be the bad guy, but the whole point of him is he controls other people. He's a parasite,
dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why I think it'd be an interesting movie because it wouldn't just be the Justice League against a villain. It would be them against one of their own who's just possessed or being controlled by somebody. So it would be kind of just a little bit different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good option for sure. But I think to your point, I don't think this would be the first. I don't think it'd be in the first Justice League movie. I think it's something like you said. You have to, especially you almost got to bring the Lantern Corps into the stories at that point. And I think it's something that they could use down the line to, take over, if it's the Green Lantern, something like that, to a character that's already been established at that point. So maybe maybe we're talking, 6-7 movies down the line at this point, depending on how things fall together. But definitely a good one to use, especially in maybe it's a Green Lantern 2 or something like that, where he kind of comes in and especially if they do the Green Lantern Corps where they're going to have multiple Green Lanterns.
Yeah, exactly.
They could almost do it just in that, because then you have multiple, lanterns fighting him. So it's a little more of a fair fight at that point.
And I mean, and they could still do where they, before he took over Kyle Rayner, he was imprisoned in the Power Corps. So they could do the Green Lantern Corps could be them trapping him, and then later on you find out that he kind of possesses Kyle Rayner. They could do a bunch of shit with it.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
I agree. You would have to build to it.
One thing that I was thinking about the other day, it might have even been when I was just sort of preparing for this podcast, but you look at most of the movies that have taken place so far in both DC and Marvel, and a majority of them are very Earth-based and realistic. And I say that a little loosely, like obviously like Man of Steel, there's an alien, Superman's an alien, he's fighting Zod, who's an alien, that kind of thing. There's some of that, Thor's a little bit of that. But outside of like Guardians of the Galaxy, everything is just very Earth-based and kind of real. Like, they have so much, especially with DC, when you start reading about, the multiverse, and you read about all these worlds, and everything that can take place, like, they have so much room to just go and do things that, like, put an actual, like, other than the cartoons and the comics, like, these movies they take place they're almost too realistic. They need to, like, take the reins of being a comic book movie and make them, out of this world, make them sci-fi fantasy. You know what I'm saying?
You think they're too worried about having to do too much CGI if they do that, though? Because I know that was like one of the big complaints about that's Green Lantern.
Green Lantern, yeah, they went over the top with it. But I think Green Lantern, for all the shit it got, I think it had, some things it was doing right, and I think that's one of them. I mean, like, Guardians of the Galaxy's all, takes place in the galaxy, but I guess it still feels a lot of real. There's not, they're not fighting these larger than life, beings and things like that, which, with DC, like, I don't know, it's comics. Like, let's go out there and try something new. And maybe that's something they'll do, going forward, especially as we kind of move into our third villain here, who's kind of responsible for the multiverse. As I'm quasi-familiar with this one. Haddix, you've probably read the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Is that?
Yeah.
Yep. So why don't you kind of take the lead on this one, and we'll chime in.
Well, I mean, according to that one, there's the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor. One's good. Anti-Monitors, or the Monitors, kind of represents good. Anti-Monitor represents evil or whatever.
I see what they did there too, like putting anti in front, like
meaning,
like
again,
not.
DC's just killing it with these.
So creative
with
at DC,
character creation.
just over the top. Yeah.
And I mean, again, without going into too much detail, because I doubt if they turned this into a movie.
No, yeah, you don't have too much to it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it wouldn't have as difficult as an origin as this, but basically one of the guardians of Oa, which is again ties into the Green Lantern and all that shit. He created this device to look back on the beginning of the world, the creation of the world, and in doing so, caused a split in like the universe, created the multiverse, yada yada yada, and then
And so for people who don't know, the multiverse, basically it's multiple universes. I mean, that's what it stands for.
Unlimited.
So yeah. I mean, so that's something that they could play around with if they wanted to do it. If they wanted to bring Anti-Monitor into this, they could start creating these multiple universes where, think of all the random things that could happen. I think in one, like Lex Luthor is married to Lois Lane. Like, anything is possible.
Yeah. And one of them, Bruce Wayne's dad's Batman.
Yeah, and Bruce died by in that same one. Kiser was talking about Lex Luthor is the only good guy, and the Justice League is like all bad guys. It's like there's a bunch of different shit.
Yeah, so I mean, all kinds of possibilities.
Which Earth is the one we know of? Like,
we're Earth 1. We're Earth
Prime
1.
or whatever. Is it the same as Earth Prime?
No, Earth Prime and Earth 1 are not the same thing.
I mean, how arrogant is it for us to call ourselves Earth 1?
It
It's just like us calling our moon the moon, you know?
It is our moon. But anyway, again, without getting into too much detail, the Anti-Monitor is the epitome of everything evil. The Monitor is the epitome of everything good. The Anti-Monitor ends up destroying everything in his anti-matter world. So he becomes a lot more powerful than our Monitor and our good version. And so he basically wants to take over all of the, universes and ends up starts destroying universes, yada, 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 to try to get back to the beginning of time. And the whole story of the Infinite Crisis or whatever is stopping that from happening.
And, sorry, I'll let you finish.
The thing that I could see happening more is the new version of the Anti-Monitor is where he's the control of the anti-life equation. He ends up killing Darkseid. That's what I think is going to happen more so than that.
All right.
That's
an option too. But for what it's worth, as far as this guy's, very powerful, huge, and I think
he's almost a cheat code bad guy. Like if you were to like look at his resume when he's like, there's people that are like, okay, he's strong. Okay, he's, like I said, there's Darkseid and guys like that who you would think already is a top tier, threat to the universe. And then you've got a guy that literally can eat universes.
I mean, his purpose in the comics was they had all these universes, multiple Supermans, multiple, Supergirls, all this shit. His purpose was DC was like, well, we need to go back to one. Like, we have too much shit going on. So they created this guy to just kill things.
They had all kinds of continuity errors. Yeah, because he killed Supergirl and Flash at one point. I mean...
Yeah, he kills, and then there ends up being a couple more, they kind of revert back and do a couple more universes because they keep, like, Superman Prime alive. But that's basically this guy's job, was to just murk everybody and just go back down to one world. So he's like the ultimate badass.
Maybe they could bring him in and eliminate Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern and that universe altogether.
Dude, would it be messed up if DC did something like that?
Well, if you think about it, it could be if they really. I mean, it doesn't really matter that nobody thinks that movie is part of this universe anymore.
No.
But if you think about it, it's sort of like what X-Men. Days of Future Past did.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
They could do that, the kind of aspect to it. So, I don't think that's going to be the case, but it would be interesting nonetheless. If you guys any final words on our villains before we move on to the Justice League?
I feel like I'm going back to Anti-Monitor. Not saying I'm against it. I mean, he just seems like just the destructive force of the universe embodied, and that just seems like a tier way above anything.
That's why I think they're going to do more of what they're doing with this Rebirth Anti-Monitor, where he's not that powerful. He's not that big of a guy.
I feel like they'd have to dial him down quite a bit.
Yeah, he is a little bit in this in the new shit, and I think they'd go that route more so than him destroying universes route. So
would he be kind of equivalent? Like, I thought that Apocalypse or something like that would be almost a close.
I mean, kind of. The only thing about Apocalypse is I guess he was a human at one point, and just evolved into a powerful mutant. But the Anti-Monitor and the old shit was just, I mean, basically
you don't
god.
Fuck with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's discuss the people who might have to take down the Anti-Monitor or Parallax or even Vandal Savage.
Die to him.
And that will be the Justice League. And so what we did is we made a top 3 list here, no particular order, of people that we think need to be in the Justice League, and that should join the Justice League, and that is already disincluding, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and to a lesser extent, Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg, who have already been announced to be part of this. And Hougie, I'll let you start, just because you kicked off the Vandal Savage. Which hero are you most looking forward to, or you think is most necessary to join the Justice League? Hougie?
Oh, you know what? Hey, what's going on, guys? No. Skype almost DC'd there before a second there. What I was saying was, there's only like really two guys I really know. I mean, I know all three, but as far as me being able to talk about it at all would probably be Green Lantern. Now, I think we already mentioned that they're doing a Green Lantern movie.
It hasn't been 100% confirmed, but I think they're.
I think it'd be hard for them not to. I feel like it would be hard for them not to. I thought they did confirm in like 2020,
but it's Green Lantern Corps, so it's not just a Green Lantern movie, but it is a Green Lantern movie, if that makes sense.
So what you're saying? So I guess then I think
multiple Green Lantern.
Right? Yeah, there are more than one Green Lantern.
Green Lantern Eye. I mean, what's the multiple of Green Lantern?
There are multiple individuals that play the role of a Green Lantern. And I think the more important thing would be if you're going to include Green Lantern, you've got a lot of choices. And maybe I think that might be the more interesting thing.
Yeah, I think that's the debate here, because I think we all three of us agreed that Green Lantern needs to be in the Justice League. I mean, he's pretty much a prime member of it. And to the points we've already been making, a lot of these, out of this world type villains are tied to the Lantern Corps in some way or fashion or something like that. And you're going to need that type of power. So the question then, as you were going to allude to, Hougie, is who do you want as your Green Lantern?
And I'll be the guy that will probably go against you. I think you guys are probably more of the Kyle Rayner group, and I'm more of the Hal Jordan group. Once again, I mean, we've already had a Hal Jordan Green Lantern movie. Obviously, a lot of people would want to forget about it, but
Ryan Reynolds being one of those.
I do think, though, that he is the true Green Lantern, and I think if you're going to introduce Green Lantern, I think you still keep Hal Jordan as the guy who handles it. Now, I guess it also kind of depends on. Are you going to if you're not going to create like a standalone Green Lantern movie where you kind of like the Ryan Reynolds movie? If you don't do that, then I feel like Hal Jordan could be. It doesn't need to be Hal Jordan. I think Hal Jordan has a much more interesting origin story than the other guys. Though Kyle Rayner's got a decent story as well. But if they were to start out introducing Green Lantern in another movie or at the Green Lantern Corps, then I can see them just saying, let's go with Kyle Rayner and try something a little bit different and go against the grain, because I don't know how many theatrical or movie appearances that Kyle Rayner has had. But I don't know honestly who's the more popular Green Lantern to the comic world. I'll defer that to you guys of who. Which version do people want to see?
I would personally like to see Kyle Rayner, and it's because that hinges on how in depth they get with the color spectrum of the rings, which I would love to fucking see. Whether they do it right,
this guy's a fan of colors. I've never seen you so passionate about anything. I
love, Roy,
in 39 episodes, you've shown no passion until you got to the color spectrum.
Love the color spectrum, bro. Love it. And if they end up getting into the red lanterns, the blue lanterns, all that kind of shit, that would be awesome. And if they do that, I would love to see Kyle Rayner, because he becomes the White Lantern. First White Lantern, and it's just
like Power Rangers. Yeah.
You guys don't worry
He's a
about
Green
that.
Lantern, then he dies, and he comes back as the White.
But they
Ranger.
just do so much. They do so much cool shit in the Lantern Corps, if you will. So if they got that in depth with it, if they had plans to do that, I would choose Kyle Rayner.
And he is the modern. He's the modern, I guess, quote unquote, Green Lantern.
Yeah, but if they were said, hey, we're just going to stick to, your typical Green Lantern. We're going to have a core movie, but we're going to just kind of keep it to your typical Green Lantern. I would choose Hal, because he does kind of. When I think of Green Lantern, I think of Hal Jordan. But then if you get real in depth with stuff, Kyle Rayner kind of became the focal point there.
I got to be honest.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was just going to say, I got to be honest. I have no dog in this fight. I don't really care who's playing Green Lantern.
So you're cool with Jon Stewart?
Yeah, I mean, if he's not busy with the Daily Show anymore,
damn it, Kiser! I was gonna say he'd be kind of an old Green Lantern, but
I think my favorite part about this podcast is just taking whatever Hougie says and twisting his words.
So while Hougie was busy reading up on things, Kiser was busy writing down jokes to.
Oh yeah, I have the word Jon Stewart. I'm like, somebody's gonna mention him. Mention Daily Show here. Check. And sometimes it's just on the fly. I mean, sometimes Hougie brings out a word like Galactus or Mystique, and I just have to just comes out of my head.
Heard that before.
Oh God damn it! But I don't know. I honestly don't really have a fight either. But I guess the whole thing is that what does the regular moviegoer is it that important to have Hal Jordan?
I don't think the regular moviegoer cares, because as long as you give them the backstory, the average moviegoer is not gonna know Kyle Rayner from Hal Jordan from Jon Stewart. Like they're all the same. So until they
is it the same thing apply to like the Flash character as well? Has that even been decided which Flash it is? That we're probably.
I think it's Barry Allen.
I think it is as well. But now that I think about it, have they ever called him? Has he called him Barry?
I haven't heard anything.
I thought in the new movie he did, or in the previews for Justice League.
You know what? I think he does. I think he says like Barry.
Because he says you're Barry Allen. Right. He goes, "Oh, you've heard of me," or something like that.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. But again, I think the average moviegoer wouldn't give two shits about the name.
No,
you could pick a random
Rose
name
by any other name would smell just as sweet, right?
Dude, Rose is from Titanic. All right, we're not talking about that movie.
But my point still stands.
Yes,
but I don't. As long as they give them an interesting backstory, whatever it might be. Now, if they want to start following comics and they want to your point, Haddix, start delving into White Lantern, color spectrum, all that kind of thing, then yeah, maybe there is. And if they want to do Parallax, then maybe Hal Jordan needs to be there. So
it has to, because there's all the bad guys that we've picked so far. I feel like are tied way too much to the Green Lantern story. So if what we want is going to come to fruition, then there has to be more than just a Green Lantern Corps movie. I feel like, and they have to make up their mind who's going to be the Justice League Green Lantern.
Absolutely,
and it's going to be really unfortunate because he's a founding member of the Justice League. So if that ends up not happening and they just have the Green Lantern Corps movie with all the Green Lanterns, but then they don't assign somebody, I don't know what the hell they do, but have one guy being like, all right, I'll be in the Justice League, no matter who it is. If we want everything to happen based on this podcast and the names we're dropping, then I feel like that's Hal Jordan then.
And that's fine. And I don't think either of us are going to be angry if it's if Hal Jordan's the chosen Lantern by any means. But it'll be interesting. I think we're all in agreement, though. Green Lantern needs to make an appearance soon. Maybe the Justice League movie. If not, it's got to be right afterwards. But
So you think he'll show up before the Green Lantern Corps movie, which has been rumored to be coming out?
I hope he does, honestly.
So do I.
Especially if the Justice League movie's coming out beforehand, which it is. I think he needs to be present in some aspect of it.
I hope he is. I really do.
But enough about him. Let's move on our list here. We got 2 more characters we want to get through. The next one's probably the most important character for the Justice League that has not yet been introduced, in my opinion, and that's Martian Manhunter. Arguably the architect behind the Justice League in previous renditions. I think he's a very critical part of this group, and I'm surprised he has not been announced yet for this first movie.
I think he's been a part of every Justice League iteration that they've ever done. I think I read that somewhere.
That's very possible, yeah.
But I do agree. He, first off, provides them to be able to communicate to each other without any type of radio.
Right, yeah, he's basically he communicates telepathically through all
he
of
can
them,
communicate.
so.
So, I mean,
he's the IT guy.
I think he's a crucial part. A very crucial.
He is the Verizon Wireless of the Justice League.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. And I mean, he's strong as hell. He can fly. He can turn invisible. I mean, he's a good person to have with you.
I mean, those are all very useful superpowers.
Don't bring him to a bonfire because he'll be too scared.
Very true. He can shapeshift.
That's true.
Which is cool.
So we don't need the Wonder Twins anymore.
And more importantly, he is the whole White Martian storyline ties in
back to colors
Manhunter.
again.
I know this guy loves his colors.
He's a green Martian, dude. All right. So
another green to white.
So the whole white Martian thing could again be a good villain for the DC universe if they decided to go that route.
White Martian lives matter, right?
Hey, all Martian lives matter.
Albino.
I just gotta ask, why does he have a French name?
Jean Jones, that's actually a Martian name, so, you know.
But why is Martian also French? Because I feel like every time they talk, and like I feel like he even sort of has a little bit of an accent to him. And I'm not familiar with Martian accents, but I feel like it's slightly French.
Well, he's not from Nebraska, so I don't know what you expect the Martian to sound like. But once again, if he has like a French, does that mean that like possibly all French people are aliens? Is that the conspiracy we now want to spread? You tell me.
I'm gonna leave that up to you and the fans. There, I'm not touching that one.
Well, then I have nothing to add to this.
So the only other thing I want to say, because we're a little low on time, before we move on to our last one, is, the big thing for Martian Manhunter is he sort of puts the group together. He gets, Batman and Superman, the Lantern, and, Wonder Woman, and whoever else. He sort of gathers them all together because he can kind of go around because he's not, stuck to Earth and that kind of thing. And I feel like everything in this first Justice League movie is pointing to Batman being the one to get together Wonder Woman and Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman and probably Superman when they figure out how to bring him back. So I'm worried that Martian Manhunter might not be in this movie for that reason.
It's a lot of new characters. So
I wish they would have done some type of Martian Manhunter. Batman getting the Justice League together kind of goes against Batman's like solo.
Yeah, he's like
solo thing.
Right. I was actually, one of the things I did is I was watching the Justice League cartoon on Netflix, which is pretty good.
So good. So good.
But, one of the things is Martian Manhunter is sort of gathering the group together. He says, he's like, oh, are you, yeah, Superman's like, yeah, I'm in. Wonder Woman's like, yeah, I think I'll do this. And then they look at Batman and he's like, I'm sort of a solo guy. So to your point, it's the exact opposite. And the only thing I can figure is Batman's already killing people right now. And he's no longer, he's getting the group together. You might as well just, if you're going to screw up his character, you might as well just screw it up on all aspects.
Just keep going. Yeah, just keep going. Just plow right through it with good fight scenes.
Put more gasoline into the dumpster fire.
Yeah, exactly.
So why not But in all seriousness, I think the way they're going to write it is he thinks he failed Clark, so this is sort of his way. Like, this is what Clark would have wanted. So I think he's like trying to make amends there. But to your point, it still just craps all over Batman's character.
Yeah.
Well, and once again, the Batman versus Superman, Batman was the one that was having all those premonitions and visions of what could be coming soon, and which also gives more reason. And once again, Martian Manhunter might show up in the Justice League movie, and he may still be an integral.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
In creating the Justice League,
right?
And that would be awesome if they seriously kept under wraps, which is something that I feel like DC does not do a very good job of, is hiding things.
You can look
from
at
the
trailer for Batman vs Superman to say that.
I think it's almost impossible to 100% keep things under wrap these days. People are there watching you film, especially if you're filming like outside or something.
Yeah,
like,
this social media era
it's just
is very
impossible.
difficult. Yeah. So if they ever do it, I mean, it's props to them.
Yeah.
One last
Unless
character.
they completely CGI Martian Manhunter.
Oh, that would be terrible. Let's not do that. Our last character on our list here, as we kind of get near the end of our podcast, is Hawkman. This could also be Hawkgirl, both or one or the other. I think if they just chose one, Hawkgirl may be the way to go, just because they're going to want to like diversify the cast and put another woman. Yeah. But I mean, if you have one, eventually the other's going to show up. That's sort of their thing. They're kind of in the Justice League. I think it's less about having them in the current Justice League and more just introducing them for other potential movies.
Yeah. I think it would be I personally think the Hawkgirl of the Justice League cartoon that you were talking about would be like a perfect iteration. She's a badass, female character to add some diversity to the whole thing.
Not the Hawkgirl from Legends of Tomorrow, because she's just a whiny barista. So...
Yeah, some type of like warrior, you know what I mean? Like just a badass. And again, could implement a lot of different villains that could potentially take on the whole Justice League. So I just think it'd be a good character to have. Right,
and they're sort of quasi-immortal. I don't know exactly how you want to say it, but they're
reincarnated.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what it is. So, it opens a lot of stories there, and they could have their own solo movie eventually. I think we're all in agreement, though. All these characters that we say don't have to be introduced in the next Justice League movie. It's more kind of the development as we go forward and who we would like to see. Because honestly, like you were saying, Kyle, we're already getting Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg introduced in this next movie. If they start bringing in Lantern, Martian Manhunter, Hawkman, like now you're introducing 6, 7, 8 characters that are all pretty big players. Next thing you know, you're going to screw it. It's going to be too much, and you're going to end up screwing things up, and you're going to get no development instead of like good development from a couple of characters. And
it's not like we named the only 3 characters that could be in the Justice League. I mean, there's others we left out. Like, I said Green Arrow would be the one I think that sticks out again, and we didn't even talk about him, and he could easily be another big role player in the Justice League. And you just gotta pick your spots.
And he's got a color in his name, so Haddix is a fan.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm personally waiting for Plastic Man to be joined into the Justice League. So I
have no idea who that even is. I can only assume what his abilities are, but
think of Mr. Fantastic, but a comedy version.
Well, that was
comedic.
That's the reason why Green Arrow, I think, is necessary, because at some point, everybody on the show or in the movies right now, they're pretty serious. Almost all of them.
Why so serious?
Flash won't be when he shows up. Yeah.
But other than that, everybody is either stoic and creepy or real serious.
Or sullen and downtrodden.
And believe it or not, all those could be describing Superman's character. So.
Yeah, seriously.
Which, once again, and Superman should have always been like the neutral, like, not so much doesn't have a cure in the world, but has that confidence in that, like, no one's going to hurt me. Why should I be sad? Type of thing. But he's been real sad.
But instead he's like got a journal and he's like, why is everybody so mean to me?
Dear Journal.
And then he dies.
Dear Journal, Soup's here.
Oh, man.
So that's our list. We managed to get through it. Hougie, this is like you study for that test 2 minutes before class and you feel like, wow, I actually made it through. Don't worry. Your grade's going to come out tomorrow and you're going to get a D-. Fans, feel free to reach out on Twitter, Facebook, and iTunes and all that and let Hougie know how he did on his Vandal Savage review. pseudonerdpod.com for all of that fun stuff. And, next week we are finally getting out of the DC universe and back into the pseudo nerd area. And I think we're going to discuss streaming services. It's sort of a techie kind of podcast. We talk about, Netflix, HBO Go, that kind of thing. Give some reviews and our thoughts on that kind of stuff. From the home of the Nazi spy ring run by Fritz Claver during World War II that was stopped by the Justice Society, to the home of Tanark's Bewitched nightclub, which was destroyed during Spectre's rampage during the Day of Vengeance. I am Josh Kiser. He is Josh Haddix, and he is Kyle Hoagland. And we will see you guys next time.
Have a good Friday.
The lungs on that guy. See ya.